Welcome to episode 19 of Married at First Sight UK. So we're now on to our commitment ceremony. The first people on the couch were Thomas and Adrian. Now they seem to be getting on very well. They've got a great friendship going on. Again, Thomas is still being Thomas. Always the centre of attention when it comes to the dinner parties. And always Adrian trying to calm him down, trying to put him back in. He virtually has to treat him like a toddler. That's virtually what I'm trying to say here. But that match seems to work. I don't know how, but it seems to work. Adrian's the nurturer and Thomas is the one that needs nurturing. Yeah. We also heard the matchmakers ask the question in regards to, okay, you've got a great friendship, but what about the rest of it? The romance. They're both saying that we do kiss. We do. But as far as Adrian's concerned, he's never led with sex. He doesn't have a wild drive for sex, he says. Whilst Thomas has always led with sex. But being in this relationship, they've sort of come to a middle ground, I'm going to say. That Thomas is going to wait for around 6 months and see where things lead. He said he won't really wait years, but he will wait for 6 months with that slow progression in a sexual relationship. So this will be interesting to see whether that pans out. But as far as I can see, these two are going in the right direction. Never thought it would work, to be honest. I still have my doubts though. But nevertheless, it's still going in the right direction. They're both looking forward to their homestay as well. So that'd be interesting to see how they cope outside of the experiment. So that's those two. And they both said they'll stay. So moving on to our next couple, we had April and George. These two started off by saying that they've had a hard week. It's been a hard week for these two. From what Gemma was saying, they also had an argument last night. Again. April's still talking about George not trusting her, and George reciprocated by saying he can't fully trust her with his heart. Yeah, we're still there. We're still there. His reasoning is because of fear of rejection, humiliation of letting her into his life, and the children getting to know her, for her to leave. Yeah, we're still there. Then they started talking about how a certain member of the collective is calling their relationship fake. And then when they were asked who they were talking about, George pointed to Thomas. Yes, Thomas. And Thomas put his hand up like to say, yeah, that's me. But when Paul, the matchmaker, asked Thomas whether he had anything to say, Thomas said, no, I've got nothing to say. But before we knew it, Adrian put his hand up to say, yes, I do. Everybody was in shock to think, oh, Adrian? Adrian? What's going on here?
Thomas, would you like to...
Got nothing to say.
You've nothing to say? I do.
Yes, all eyes were now on Adrian. We were all intrigued to know what was going on here. He started off by saying that he's been wanting to get this off his chest for weeks. And this is what he said.
Adrian, no, George, we sat and we had this conversation.
Leave it.
When George wasn't in a good spot with April, he wanted my ear. He wanted to listen. And I absolutely supported him, and I was thanked for that.
Not much else happened behind that. I was expecting a whole scene to play out. But George stopped him from saying whatever he wanted to say. With respect. So we'll never know what was said. I'm intrigued now. What has George been talking to Adrian about? I'm intrigued now. We then saw April try to jump into the middle of that conversation with George and Adrian. And then we saw, what's his name, Thomas, intervene by calling her a liar.
You're a liar, April.
1 second. Thomas show.
Okay. No, just Tom, sit down.
I've got too much personal stuff going on in my life to listen to this liar. I have had enough. Bye.
Wow. That was an exit. Something's definitely got under Thomas's skin. I wonder what that could be. I'm more interested now of what's been said between George and Adrian. Next thing that happened was Paul, the matchmaker, telling everybody he's not having any of this. You need to respect the forum. He's not having any of it. With him putting his foot down, everything came back to normal. So he carried on talking with George and April. Well, actually, it was Mel that carried on talking to George and April about their relationship and about shutting out the outside noise and just to concentrate on the two of them. Put a barrier around you and let that, whatever's going on outside, just drop away. Something like that, she said. Ah, dear. But to be honest, it sounds good. It does sound good. But at the end of the day, these two are not compatible. They're not going to work. I don't care what anybody tells me. Oh, before I forget, Thomas did come back and sit down. And April and George both said stay. So moving on. The next couple on the couch were Jenna and Zoe. There's not really a lot to report on these two. Last week they weren't in the greatest of places, but they have a way of resolving their issues. They sit down, talk about it, and continuously resolve their issues. So they're heading in the right direction, and they seem to come back stronger, as Paul says. Now, when it comes to relationship goals, Jenna says she wants to be able to live with someone one day. And with the homestays, it will be a chance to see what happens there. And it looks as though they're going to Jenna's homestay first, which is in Blackpool. Zoe looked a little hesitant, but Jenna did reassure her, don't worry, it'll be fine. So we'll just have to wait and see how these two pan out. But that's all I can say about these two. They seem to be heading in the right direction. Let's hope the vegan thing doesn't come up again. But yeah, fingers crossed. Moving on. The next couple on the couch were Sophie and Jonathan. You know what? I could feel my blood boiling. I actually could feel my blood boiling. When I watched this, I must have watched it about 3 or 4 times. That section there with Sophie and Jonathan and him and the experts. Because he wasn't listening to the experts. No, he wasn't. He thinks he knows everything. This guy is not here to learn. These are the experts trying to tell you something, trying to teach you something, but he's not here to learn. Why the F are you on this show? Why are you here? Why are you here? Absolutely frustrating watching that. I don't even know what was said from Sophie because I'm so frustrated with him. I can't even think what she said. My blood is just boiling. But I'm going to play you some of the parts that frustrated me.
If you know me as a person, I say things in a blunt way, not necessarily seriously, but in jest a lot of the time. If I do offend someone, I'll say like, I will be generally sorry, I don't really care.
Did you just say that you don't care how it lands?
Dumb and dumber. He needs a dummy manual.
Difficult to hear that stuff, but it's like the empathy and the sympathy that I just like need, because it's like I'm just going to say this and it's going to have the impact it's going to have, and that's it.
I feel so sorry for Sophie having to deal with this dickhead. Yes, dickhead.
This is where we couldn't find the common ground, because I still struggle with understanding where the insult was, because it was an opinion and it wasn't aimed at Sophie.
Stop lying. Stop lying. Of course it was aimed at Sophie. Stop your lying.
You're going to go through life apologising for the way other people feel for you having an
Whoa.
opinion. No, I'm sorry,
Jonathan,
but
listen
sometimes
to
you're allowed,
yourself.
you're allowed
We're talking
an
about
opinion.
being in an intimate relationship with a partner, and you're saying, I don't want to apologise for how I make her feel.
I swear this guy's got a chromosome missing. He's not tapped right up there. He's not tapped right. He needs to go back to school. And as Paul says, he lacks emotional intelligence. Paul hit the nail on the head. He lacks emotional intelligence.
I don't think you've listened to what Paul said earlier. You need to just have a willingness to learn and grow from this, and then not make the same mistakes in the future. Yeah. And it just seems like you're so reluctant to learn and grow right now, like those walls are up.
Okay.
Yes, Jenna, you tell him. Where did they get him from? Where did they get him from? Oh, this is frustrating. Oh, my blood is boiling. Oh, my blood pressure's just... Oh, God, don't. I just couldn't finish the rest of the conversation. It's just too much for me. Anyway, after all that, they both decided to stay. Moving on. Our next couple was Shanita and Jordan. Now, these make me feel calm. I feel so much calmer being able to talk about these two, because these two seem to be in a great position. They've resolved their issues. They seem to be getting stronger as the weeks go on. The couples retreat again seems to have strengthened their relationship. They're already talking about what they're going to do outside of this experiment. They're looking forward to the future. She can't wait to go to his homestay and see what his life is about. They're also looking at the distance that they live, because they live 2 hours away from each other. So they're trying to incorporate life outside of the experiment, and forward thinking is part of their process. Yeah, so these two have got a great foundation already, and I've got my fingers crossed for these two. If anything out of the whole experiment, I hope these two can work. Yeah. So moving on. The next couple on the couch were Acacia and Kwame. I'm going to start by saying, did you see the awkwardness? I've always had my doubts about these two. I've never believed in this couple, and this mess here, tells me everything I need to know. Did you hear all that verbal diarrhea that was coming out of Kwame's mouth? Verbal diarrhea. He talks a lot of shit. My opinion of him hasn't changed, and it never will. He's a bullshitter. You see him there, sitting there, telling the experts that him and Acacia no longer need their help. Did you hear that crap? Did you hear it? He continues to say, we've got it from here. And what did he say? Something like, we got this. Peace. The dickhead. What's he talking about? I know he's hiding something. Something's not right here. Him and Acacia are not meant to be. And all of a sudden, the homestays are coming up. And I'm thinking, what's he getting at? What's going on here? What do you mean he doesn't need their help? All of a sudden, the homestays are coming up. And he no longer needs their help. But isn't the homestays to find out whether you two are compatible on the outside? Isn't that what that's all about? Whether your lifestyles match up. Whether you can work through the obstacles that you have. Something smells fishy here. Something smells fishy. I'm going to say it again. He is not into her. I'll say it one more time. He is not into her. Whenever you see the two together, whether it be on the sofa with the collective or on the sofa in front of the experts, they are never touching each other. They never touch. You are not going to try and convince me that this is a marriage. This is fake. I can't think of any other word to use. This is a facade. She's putting on the face to make it look like they're together, and so is he. They look good together. They dress the same. They wear the same colours. All for show. But they're not convincing me. And Acacia, whenever she's feeling awkward, just smiles. She's very good at that. Smiling. But behind the smile, she's not fooling me. All of a sudden, her mum comes in my head. Yeah, her mum comes in my head. Because the way the mum acts reminds me a little bit of myself. all through the facade that Kwame was trying to boast about his business and his friends, and this one does a podcast with me, all at the wedding reception. Yeah, I'm like the mum. Sorry, that wasn't the question I asked. I asked about my daughter. Are you looking forward to the honeymoon? That's me. Don't try and wash over what I've just asked you. Don't try that with me. Don't try go round in circles. Don't try that with me. I'm not the one. But anyway, here are a few of the red flag moments.
We understand each other. We spoke a lot about outside world. We're good. We're so good, I have been saying to Keisha, we don't really need to be here anymore.
That's the first red flag. He's hiding something. He's hiding something. And as Charlene says, this rings alarm bells.
Are you saying there's no room for improvement?
I'm not saying we are the perfect couple and we're in a place where we don't need anything. What I'm saying is I want to see more real life.
Did you see Keisha's face? Did you see Keisha's face? Her face speaks volumes. I'm going to say it again. They are not fooling me. And then he goes on to talk about wanting to see real life. Okay. We're going to see real life. The homestays are coming up. So what's your point? About you're good. We got this. What's your point? The homestays are coming up. So let's see how you get on. But instead you want to give excuses about how your lifestyles don't match up, and like you have kids and you have to pick them up from school, drop them off to school, and then you've got to go to work, and then you've got to meet up for go to cinema on a Saturday, and then you've got to make arrangement with Keisha to meet her on a Tuesday. What are you talking about? That's the whole part of the homestays. Real life. So let's see real life. But as I said, something smells fishy here. Something smells fishy. Why are you trying to duck out of this? Why are you trying to duck out of it? Something smells fishy.
Okay, so homestays, it sounds like that's going to be really important for the two of you to kind of establish where you go with this relationship.
Again, did you see the awkwardness? She asked a question, but did anybody answer? They were there staring back at her as if to say, I don't know how to answer that question. I don't know who they're fooling. I don't know who they're fooling. But just to conclude, they both said stay. So moving on. The next couple, or the next couples on the couch were Matt and Gemma and Whitney and Duca. Matt and Gemma were actually on the couch while Whitney and Duca stayed in their seats, and Mel was going to try and deal with the situation that has arisen. Yeah, what a bloody mess. So Mel goes on to say, so what happened? So it's Whitney that spoke first. She turned around and said, it was automatic with me and Matt. I got butterflies in my stomach when I first saw him, and I feel like a giddy child in my 31-year-old self. And then he reciprocated by saying he felt like a schoolboy around her. He had to check in with her friend to see whether I'm seeing what I'm seeing. Is she giving me the eye? Yeah, along those lines they were talking. Then we saw Gemma interrupt and say,
it makes me feel shit that two other people didn't.
I had to witness it unfold. You know, whether Matt likes to know it or not, there were feelings on my side.
I really do feel sorry for Gemma in this situation, because it would be hard for anyone to watch that unfold under your nose. I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
I think every girl's been there where, like, you've held on a little bit longer to something. You know the guy's checked out, but you've still held on a little bit longer. We've all been there.
I definitely get where Whitney's coming from. But the thing about her, I just don't like her. I don't know what it is. It's this sort of no-care attitude. in how she delivers a message. It just frustrates the hell out of me. Oh, dear. And for someone on the other end having to receive it that way. Poor Gemma. Poor Gemma. The poor girl didn't know what to do with herself. The conversation then went on to the dinner party about how she felt humiliated after Matt had told her what had happened. He had pulled her to one side and told her that him and her aren't working and that he's got an attraction to Whitney. Later on, she found out that everybody seemed to have known about this, that he was going to pull her to one side. Why couldn't he have told her before the dinner party? She felt embarrassed, humiliated and disrespected. That's what she said. And on top of that, she said they had slept together. Yeah.
To top it off, they've shared a bed and not actually giving a shit about how that would actually make me feel.
Audacity.
I very specifically did not share a bed with Whitney until everything was made aware.
He wasn't lying. But at the same time, you're married, supposedly. So why not wait till outside of the experiment to do all that? I get where Gemma's coming from. I understand where her head's at. It's embarrassing.
That's not acceptable. Not in my opinion.
Gemma, I agree with that with you wholeheartedly. Everything should have been done afterwards when two couples wrote leave.
That's it.
My guy code is like, if you dealt with an ex in the past, I would never touch that.
And what Duke said about boy code, that's my girl code. And just to add, I'm very surprised I heard Duke speak, because we haven't heard a peep out of him. The conversation continued with Shanita intervening by saying something to do with if this was in the real world, this would not be acceptable. And then Matt chimes in to say, no, it's not in the real world. This is not real. Something like that, he said. And then we heard Zoe speak.
I don't need to answer anything from you. I don't value your opinion, with no disrespect.
By doing that, you know that you're still married until you leave this process. Therefore, you've disrespected Duca, you've disrespected Gemma, and you've disrespected the process.
Okay, thank you for your opinion.
Yes, Zoe, you tell him. I don't know what it is about Matt. I like him, but I hate his patronising ways. There was an awkward silence after Matt shut Zoe down. And then we heard Charlene say to Whitney, do you feel that you've done anything wrong? Something like that, she said. And Whitney's answer was, no. No, I don't.
No, I don't. We're all aware that this has been dead in the water for a long time.
It was not for you to decide how long my relationship was dead in the water, but the fact is...
As we saw with Whitney, she's very dismissive. She's got that no care attitude again. Dear. And then Gemma's like on a high. She's got her she's all in her feelings and it's got too much. So all we saw was them back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Not really getting anywhere. Not really getting anywhere. Doesn't matter what they say now. They're no longer listening to each other. But the last word was with Whitney.
I understand that you're hurt, and I understand that you're angry at me, and I accept that, and I am sorry for that, but I'm not sorry for the fact that I like the boy, and that whatever comes in the future, I'm open to it. I'm open to it.
She shut that conversation down like a bad itch. At this point, she didn't care. It was also at that point that Mel brought the argument to a close. And then she asked everybody to give their decisions. And as we all know, they all said leave. But there was a but. Whitney and Matt still wanted to be coached by the experts. Yes, you heard me. Whitney and Matt both wanted to remain in the camp, part of the process, and be coached by the experts. Now the experts are wondering, where do we go from here? Of course, Duca and Gemma had their penny's worth to put in about that, and so did the rest of the collective. They weren't happy to hear that these two wanted to stay. So this is what Mel said next.
In fact, we need further discussion.
Yes.
We need time to reflect on what is right for you two as a couple, the rest of the group, and the process.
Well, I'll say no more. We're just going to have to wait and see. But one thing I will say, what happened to Duca and Gemma getting their send-off? We never heard from them again. Not really. They didn't get the hugs and the goodbyes like most people do when they leave. Yeah, I was sad for that. I was sad to see that didn't happen. Oh dear. But anyway, this is where I'm going to leave it. If you like what you heard, please like, comment and subscribe. Till next time.